Tonight I got a true viewer story from Vicki. I'm going to tag her in the comments, but this happened in North Georgia in Dade County, the Trenton area on the backside of Sand Mountain. It was closer to 3 a.m. when I threw my keys in the ignition and pulled out of the Chattanooga area. A friend of mine, a truck driver, had broken down and was stranded at a lonely motel just over the state line. He'd called me from a payphone, panicked and stuck, and I was his only ride down towards the interstate corridor heading back to Texas. Back then, I didn't have a GPS on the dashboard or a folded map in the glove box. All I had to guide me was a scrap of paper on the passenger seat with a list of scribbled, handwritten instructions he'd given me over the phone. Take the highway past Trenton, look for the cutoff, head over the ridge. Trying to read your own handwriting under a dim dome light while driving a dark, winding road is stressful enough. But when I missed the main route and the road began to tilt sharply upwards, twisting into the steep, sheer climb of Sand Mountain, the whole atmosphere changed. I knew it almost instantly I'd misread a line on that paper. The wide road deteriorated into a narrow, crumbling ribbon of asphalt. Massive hemlocks and dense mountain brush crowded the shoulders, leaning over the road like a tunnel and completely blocking out the night sky. There were no signs, no mile markers, and absolutely no other cars. The further up the ridge I climbed, the heavier the air inside the car became. It was a thick, oppressive pressure that made it hard to breathe. That primal gut feeling telling you that you are entirely exposed and you shouldn't be there. A dense, wet mountain fog began to bleed out of the hollows, swallowing my headlights. I rolled my window down a few inches to try and catch a glimpse of the road's edge so I wouldn't drift off the shoulder. The woods outside were dead silent. No bugs, no wind, no nocturnal animals, just a freezing, damp smell of rotting leaves and wet stone. Flanked by a sheer rock wall on one side and a drop-off into pitch blackness on the other, there was nowhere to turn around. Even if I wanted to quit and turn back, I couldn't. And besides, my buddy was still out there waiting at some isolated mountain motel. I had to keep going. I dropped my speed to 15 miles an hour, my eyes straining against the white wall of fog. Suddenly, the radio dial, which had been playing a distant scratchy station, faded out into a heavy, pulsing white noise. Right as the audio cut, a low, rhythmic thump, thump, thump started vibrating violently through the steering wheel and the floorboards. It felt exactly like a tire shredding itself to pieces. I slowed the car down to a near crawl, desperately looking for a flat spot against the rock wall to pull over. As the car crept around a sharp switchback, my high beams punched through a tear in the fog and illuminated a figure standing on the narrow shoulder, just inches from the sheer drop-off. My heart leaped into my throat. They were dressed in a dark, heavy coat that looked decades out of date, standing completely rigid with their back to the road. For a split second, I thought it might be another stranded traveler. But as the car rolled through parallel to them, the panic fully set in. The headlights washed right through them. The bright high beams hit the solid limestone cliff directly behind the figure, but they didn't cast any shadow or on the rock. The space was completely blank. I rolled past at a walking pace, terrified to look, but I couldn't stop myself. As the side of my car cleared the figure, they didn't reach out or move their arms. Instead, with a stiff, unnatural jerk, their head snapped sideways, locking a hollow, unblinking gaze directly onto me through the glass, while their shoulders stayed pinned forward. I didn't stop to check the tire. I slammed my foot on the gas, the engine roaring as the rear wheels fought for traction on the damp mountain road. I flew down the backside of that mountain, taking the curves entirely too fast, driven by pure survival instinct. The moment the road finally flattened out and the trees broke into the valley, the heavy pressure in my chest instantly vanished. The radio snapped back to a crystal clear broadcast, and the rhythmic thumping under my floorboards stopped entirely. The tire was perfectly fine. I eventually found the highway, found the motel, and got my friend out of there. I never told him why I was shaking when I pulled up to the lobby, and to this day, I've never gone back near that side of Sand Mountain in the dark. Thank you, Vicky, for your story. I've been on the backside of Sand Mountain in the dark. It's not any fun. I know your pain there, but thank you so much for sending in your story. Keep sending in your stories and suggestions, y'all. That's been Jay's Haunted Appalachia for tonight. And keep Appalachia haunted, y'all.